Welcome to Eye Level to High Level, where real talk meets real results. I'm Jimmy Rios, and each week we break down the mindset, money moves, and strategies you need to elevate your life and business. Let's level up. Welcome to the Eye Level to High Level podcast. My name is Jimmy Rios. I'm glad you're tuned in for another amazing episode. Today, I get the pleasure of having a person who's become a friend. I was on her show, and I was so excited that she wanted to reciprocate and come on my show. I took a lot from that experience, and I want you all listening and being able to watch to get the same experience that I had. And so I had to have her on the show. I wanted to do it before the year ended to go out with a bang, and this is the way to do it. So Charisse Pigott, I hope I said it right. If not, she's going to correct. If not, she'll correct us. But tell us a little bit about yourself. Let our audience know, what you do. Just real quick, High Level to High Level was a program that we designed it was literally by design, right? We built a system to help people that are at the eye level get to a high level in not only a monetary financial freedom mode, but mindset, right? And we want to talk about how you elevate yourself to that upper echelon that for many is unattainable, only because it's between their ears and that they think they can't get there. And I want to demystify and get those thought process out of here, because in this world that I live in, that I've built, I don't think that it cannot be possible. Everything is possible. It's just we got to change our mindset, and we got to work together to find ways to get there. We can't do it alone. And that's something that I learned over many years. So today, just like the Avengers, they have these great superheroes that have all these skill sets amongst each other. They become this unstoppable group of individuals that become the Avengers, right? I look at the Rios Business Advisors as that, as a conglomerate of advisors in their own field. Bill here at Potwork Studios is one of those advisors in the world of podcasting. Charisse is another one of our advisors in her own right, doing what she does, and she's going to talk about that. And that's what Eye Level to High Level is about. Bringing these all-stars, bringing these Avengers together to share in a little bit of time. Today we're going to do 2 episodes, and it's going to go very quick, but you're going to get a lot out of it, and that's the main goal, is that let us impart a little message to you. Take what you can from it and use us, and she'll give us her information at the end so that we can be part of your lives and help you elevate and get to that next level and that higher echelon that you belong to. So let's start. Charisse, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, before I even start that, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on your platform. I appreciate it. And
Definitely.
that was a very, very sweet introduction. Thank you. Thank you. But
Definitely.
a little bit about me. I come from a small town called Pocomoke City, Maryland. It's on the peninsula of the eastern shore of Virginia, Maryland, the Delmarva Peninsula. A lot of people
Okay.
don't know about it, but
Yeah.
if you've ever driven on Highway 13 comes all the way down here from North Carolina and goes straight through Virginia, all the way through the peninsula that I am
Okay.
from. I
Wow.
was originally born in Williamsburg though, but my parents they divorced, and so my mom remarried, and I just grew up in Pocomoke, Maryland.
Nice.
I guess a little bit about my journey. So after high school, well, actually during high school in 11th grade, I wanted to join the military. And quick story, I decided to ask one of the recruiters during lunchtime if they could come to visit my home after school one day. And my mom, a lot of people know her as this like sweet and charming lady. Like, I promise you, anyone who's ever come in contact with her, they do not have anything bad to say. She's always positive and everything. So this one particular afternoon, I brought over a Marine recruiter. and he maybe spent like 2 minutes inside my home, and my mom escorted him out of our home. I was like, well,
Wow.
I was like, well, I guess the military is not going to happen. But I ended up going to a college called Central Pennsylvania College, which is in Pennsylvania. It's in a small town called Enola, which is similar to Pocomoke, Maryland. And so my parents were cool with me going to school out there. That was about, it's like a 4 hour drive from where we live. And midway through, it was all year round school, but midway through, I decided that I was going to join the Marine Corps. And
Wow.
so I ended up joining the Marines. I did 4 years in the Marines. After the Marine Corps, I got my bachelor's and master's degrees. In the midst of that, I started my podcast, which we'll talk about a little bit later, because
Yeah.
that's why I'm here today.
Right.
And while joining going to UNCW and getting my bachelor's degree first. During that time, I decided to join the Army National Guard in North Carolina. And so I did 5 years in the Army.
Wow.
And
And thanks for your
about the time,
service, by the way.
thank you, my
Definitely.
pleasure. And then after I got out of the Army, I decided to continue with my podcast. I'm not going to talk much about my journalism career, but I do have a journalism career and I'm in journalism. And that's what I've been doing ever since. And that's always been a dream of mine since I was 10 to be a journalist, be in media, and that's what I'm doing. So I'm very happy to be following my dreams.
That says a lot. Two things I got from that. One is the determination it takes to go into a field like the Marines, Air, any of the armed services. One, because it's daunting. It's not easy, right? And so, like
Yeah.
taking on that role for one says a lot about you because it's like you've decided at a very young age to take the plunge into something that probably not, I don't know what the numbers are, but I'm sure there's obviously more men than women. And
Yeah.
how many women were in your group when you were going through everything at the
I want to
beginning?
say about 50 and then maybe a couple drop.
Yeah,
They drop because we have phases in the Marine Corps
sure.
during boot camp. You have three phases and it's phase one, phase two, and phase three. And by phase three, the people who are you go actually honestly by phase two, the people that you are with at that time, they'll be with you the rest of the time
Yeah,
until you finish boot camp. And so it was boot camp was interesting, but I'm sure we'll have time to talk about that too.
yeah. So right away, you're already putting yourself in a position where you're sink or swim, right? You have to like
Yeah,
compete, at the highest level in being able to make the cut, so to speak, right? And
right.
you have to jump into the foray of a mindset, right? What keeps you from quitting if you're watching all these other people that are either quitting or getting cut, right? How do you
Hmm.
stay in the foray of that? And tell us for you, what were some of the tricks that you played with your mind and with your body physically to stay in the game, right? To be able to get through it.
Hmm.
How did you manage to do that?
One thing in particular I did was I remembered my why. I knew at the end of the Marine Corps. Now, I haven't even gotten out of boot camp yet, but I
Right.
knew that I was going to the Marine Corps to get money for school. So I'm like, if I complete this, at least I'm on my way to be able to pay for school because I can't afford it. My parents can't afford it. That's my why. So that was my reason why for being there. And then the second thing was I just kept internalizing like, hey, Sharisse, one day down. Just make it past this day today. Just make it past this next day. I didn't count the days, but I did just tell myself to make it past each day. Give your best every day and make it past that day. And I think that's how I continue to keep going. And I also thought about it like, hey, this isn't jail. I'm only here for 3 months. I can deal with this.
Well, what you just said is a gem because have you ever read the book Atomic Habits?
I haven't, but it's actually on my book list to read. I do have a list of books that I'm currently trying to read right now, and that's on one of
So
them to get. So yeah.
so James Clear wrote this book, and it's slated to become one of the, in terms of timing, one of the 100 best books, right, ever.
Wow.
And but one of the youngest in terms of timeline to make it on that list, right? To be able
Wow.
to be known as having one of the best 100 books ever,
Hmm.
right, is an accolade in and of itself. But what I
Yeah.
got from that book, it goes along with what you're saying and along with my journey in recovery, right? Because
Hmm.
I ended up going through addiction, and what you said about taking this one step at a time, right, and understanding your
Yes.
why and knowing the end goal, right, is that every single day had its own set of challenges, and you
Right.
had to be very conscientious of that challenge for that day. But by being mentally focused on the end goal for that day, you were able to accomplish the totality of that day was to get through the day. And one
Yes.
day led to your next day of success. So every day built on success factors, right?
Yes.
On the way I live in Maricopa, Arizona, which is about 45 minutes from where the studio is at. On my way here, my brother, Johnny, he's my twin brother.
Hmm.
My brother sent me a picture of December of last year where he was at, right? And
Hmm.
he was about 230 pounds. And in the scope of the year, my brother sent me a picture of his weight, and he's down to 174.8.
Wow.
So, so
Congratulations to your brother. That's a huge milestone.
now in that year, he not only lost a lot of weight, I introduced him to my trainer, I think in April, right? So he didn't begin
Hmm.
at the beginning of the year, right? And I'll tell you what, he did this transformation in less than 6 months because he's been at it,
Wow.
right? But
Yeah.
not only that, the accolade, the biggest accolade that I told him, I said, that was amazing. What that in and of itself is amazing. But the fact is, he came back from an addiction, right? And after going 11 months sober, and he fell and he got really bad. And that's how he gained all that weight. And so to battle from that and now have the sobriety under his belt, those are those are like wins, right? All these little wins.
Yeah.
But I told him the mindset to tackle your problem day by day says more on the compound effect of those daily wins to get to where you're at. But the mindset shift that it took for him to get there was insurmountable, right? And so for
Yeah.
a lot of those listening that say, well, I can't, I'm going to wait till next year, I'm going to wait till the time is right, there's not going to be no best time to do anything. The time is now. That's when you start, right? And James Clear in his book talks about when the battle is when do I get started? If it means that today your goal, let's say your goal was to get in shape. And to do that,
Hmm.
you have to go to the gym, you have to start eating right. There's a lot of variables that go to hit that goal of whatever you're trying to get. But if you don't put on your shoes first, with your socks first, and then your shoes, and then head to the door and get out the door. He mentioned there was a guy that went to the gym. I can't remember how many days in a row for five
Hmm.
minutes. He just went for 5 minutes and went back home. He did that for X number of times. He goes, it wasn't so much for the effect of how much weight he was going to lose. It was to get into a habit of doing it every
Yes.
day so that it became such a point that now he wouldn't just stay 5 minutes. He started then increasing it to 10, 15, 20 until he had a routine, right? So
Yes.
tell us in your life, what have you been able to do with routines and habits? What are your habits that you've managed to build to get to where you're at? And I'm sure that goalpost changes and those all these things in your life change, but what do you manifest daily to keep yourself above ground?
Oh man, that's a great question.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've continued to do since I was in 11th, probably everything goes back to 11th grade. I don't know what type of epiphany I had, or I don't know what was going on. I don't remember. But my mom sent me a text message probably last year or the year before that, and it had uh basically a vision board, but it wasn't a vision board. It was just me writing different goals that I wanted to accomplish in a notebook. And I looked at that and I had already accomplished all the goals.
Wow.
And one thing that I've done over the last few years, aside from doing vision boards, is I try to make a plan for small goals because yeah, you have the goal of going to college. You have the goal of having a career in whatever it is that you want to do. But what are the things to get you to those places? Like, what do you need to do? You got to educate if you want to go to college, right? You got to find out about FAFSA. You got to so my thing is to create a plan. Even I have a plan every day. I get up in the morning, I go to the gym, and then I go to work. But that's my plan.
Yes.
And before I go to work, I make sure I eat breakfast so I'm not
Mm-hmm.
cranky and while I'm dealing with interviewing people all day.
Right.
Because I like food. So that's one thing, that's a part of my plan to make sure I'm doing all right. But sometimes things happen, you don't get to eat. Well, then what do you do in replace of that? Well, you make sure you have a smoothie to go already in your refrigerator. So you still don't deviate from the plan. There's still something in there to help you along the way. So I think one thing that's important is to make sure you have small goals in between those big goalposts that you
Yes.
have. Also, while you're manifesting, make sure you're looking into how to manifest those things. I could say all day I want to be a comedian, but am I going out here to the clubs and going out here to different events and making myself available to the community? Because if I'm not, how am I going to go be a comedian? And so
So
I
true.
think it's important to definitely educate yourself on the things that you want to do so you can manifest those things.
Right.
So those are probably like the two biggest things that I've done over the years.
Now, there's a thing. I think it's. I don't know if I don't know if it was my mom or somebody told me,
Hmm.
don't ever ask a woman how old they are. Right?
Ah, you can ask me my age.
How old are you?
I'm 33. I'll be 34 in January.
And I go to that because I admire the youth of today, right? I'm 49 years old and I have a stepdaughter who's 31 and my
Hmm.
kids are 17 and 19 and the youth of today is different, right? And they get a lot of I feel they get a lot of dirt thrown at them. And it's only because they're not misunderstood. I don't think it's because I listen to the youth and I hear
Yeah.
where they're at, what they're doing, and I love what they can do. Right.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to ask you in youth, right, because you're still in finding yourself, you're still doing things to really. You haven't. You're like basically like on a ramp, like trying to take off, and you're not there yet. But
Yeah.
you're still going. You've still gone through some experiences. Tell me what moment in your life changed how you see yourself.
Oh my goodness. Standing up to my parents to tell them I wanted to be in the military. That
Wow.
was the most defining moment ever. I was like, if I can do that, I can do anything.
Anything, right? Definitely.
I could tell you about that. So I like I said, I was midway through my freshman year of college, and like I said, it was all year round school, and so this would have been the winter semester. There's 6 week terms, and so it was around January. I made up in my mind I was going to join the Marines, and I went to go and consult with my friends. Um, we had a little huddle, and I'm like, guys, like, how do I tell my parents? And everybody's like, you just gotta stand up to them. You just gotta tell them that this is what you're gonna do. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. This is what I'm gonna do. So I called my mom. I called my mom, and I'm like, mom, I have something to tell you. I was like, is dad around? And so, and again, this is my mom's husband, but I call him my dad. He's been my dad since I was 3, so that's my dad. So,
Yeah.
she was like, yeah, yeah, he's here. And so I said, I just want y'all to know that I have been thinking really hard about joining the Marine Corps, and I signed up to join the Marines, and I'm shipping out in April.
Wow.
This is January. And I was like, I'm going to stop school in March, so I'm going to finish and I'll be able to be home for a month. And I'm not going to say what my parents said, which, by the way, it was nothing vulgar. but it
Yeah.
wasn't nice what they said. And I told them I wouldn't tell people what they said. So I'm not. I'm gonna be nice about it. But they said something that I didn't agree with, and since then they've apologized for that moment. It's just, hindsight looking back, I'm their only daughter. I come from a family of four boys, and I'm the
Yeah.
only girl. And so I could understand how they feel. This is 2011. This is probably at the as bad as it was going to get in Iraq, and I know my parents didn't want me to be a part of that. And so I told them, and they were like, "Well, we can't do anything about it now because you're old enough to make the decision yourself." And so, when I tell you, like, all my family members called, they had so many family members call me and ask, like, "Is this what you really want to do? You
So
know,
they
you
were
don't have
trying
to
to
do this."
dissuade you out of their own
Yes.
out of their own fear, right? Out of their own
Yes.
fear, they were trying to dissuade you. Because
Yes.
let me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but how many
Mhm.
times do you feel that people, because of their own way of thinking and their own way of being, are trying to hold you back from reaching and doing the
For
things you
sure,
want to do?
projection. They're projecting
Yes,
their insecurities and fears
insecurity.
on you. Yeah. And that's what they did. And like I said, I'm older now, so I
Yeah.
understand how they felt. But at the same time, I was looking at the bigger picture. And I still told my mom this. I'm like, you know what type of stability, you have from being in the military, what type of benefits, all the things that could help. I saw that at that young age. I
You
saw it and I was like, I need that
you
for
started
me. This
talking
is going to
about
help me.
perspective. You started talking about perspective and saying, look,
Yeah.
this is what this, and this brings to the table, right? Versus
Yeah.
this, right? So, like I tell people, when challenging, somebody's thought process, not because you can't change other people. They're going to do and
Right.
say the things they're going to say, but you are your voice. You
Yeah.
need to project your thought process behind why you're doing. You don't have to defend it. You just have to be like, look, this is why, and why I'm doing it, and why I'm so passionate about it. Right? When I
Right.
was doing some of the things I did, even with this program, right? Even with eye level to high level,
Hmm.
my wife, who's a big supporter and has been through the ringer with me, at one point said, go back to work at the bank, right? Because it's secure, right? So she was projecting
Yeah.
her insecurity of not having the status quo safety net of a
Hmm.
paycheck of what the bank could give me until you don't have that safety net anymore when you get fired or when you get laid off, right?
Right.
And or when you can't do the things you want to do at the bank level because you're constrained to the golden handcuffs that working for somebody else does, right? So for
Right.
me, my perspective of freedom, of being able to do what I do, of helping others, of not being constrained in scope, that was stronger to me than the whatever check I was getting, right?
Yeah.
Even though to her it was more of security, to me it was like hindering me, right? And I had to bring
Yeah.
that out because nobody understands that. And for many, you might not be understood. You might be the misunderstood, and you might be that one sitting on that island all by yourself, and that's okay. I want to tell you that it's okay to feel that way. It's tough, but I always tell people, look, everything's hard, right? Being poor is hard, right?
Oh yeah,
Being
it was.
trying to get to the other side of the fence when you're building a business is hard, right? Choose your heart
Yes.
though. Choose your heart because there's going to be challenges in everything you do, and the mindset is very important to undertake those challenges. I'm proud of you for standing up and for what you believe in because you're not.
Thank
It
you.
doesn't end now. I mean, these are the foundation blocks that you need to build on for the eventual, right? Because you'll have kids.
Right.
I started having my children in my early 30s, right? At your age, I had my daughter at 30 and my twins at 33. So I was just starting in that world of parenthood, and here I am, 49, and one of them's already in college. The other two are getting ready to graduate high school. And don't think
Yeah.
that in those 18, 19 years that I haven't invoked this thought process to them, right? Because I thought it was very important that they don't have to follow in my footsteps per se. what I
Right.
want them to do is to listen to my journey, what I've done, so they can implement and take some of that and apply it to them, right? They each have
Right.
their own path, just as you do, right? Tell us what are some of the things you took from your parents, right?
Hmm.
As a youth going now into a later stage in your life of maturity, let's call it. What
Yeah.
are some of the pluses that you've been able to extricate from your parents' side?
Oh, so many things. So one
Good,
thing I like to say, my parents I had a great childhood. There was no extremities or anything like
good,
that.
good.
That was just like a few obstacles. I had a
Blessings.
great childhood. But my parents are very religious. They're Christians,
Yeah,
believers.
yep.
And so one thing that I was able to take from them is my relationship with God. I don't claim being religious, but I am spiritual and I believe
Spiritual.
in God.
Good.
And I have a relationship with God. And I think that's what helped me, especially when I was transitioning out of the Marine Corps. At that time, I was 23. So from 23 to about 27, it was
Wow.
rough. It
Yeah,
was rough.
I
You talk
bet.
about being poor. I
Yeah.
remember I had to go get ramen from Dollar Tree, and I was working at Big Lots. I was working so many jobs. I was at the guard.
Yeah.
I was working at Big Lots. I was working at Lowe's, and I also
Wow.
worked at a nightclub, working the
Wow.
front door so I could. I mean, I was just doing
You're
everything
the
I
bouncer.
could. No, I wasn't the bouncer. I was just collecting money
Right, right.
and giving people, putting the
Yeah.
little thing over people's arms if they were under 21. But I did all, honestly, it taught me grit. Aside from the Marine
Grit.
Corps, obviously, the Marine Corps is going to teach you grit, but it really, I still had to remember my why. Why am I doing all these jobs? Why am I still in school? Well, I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted
Right.
my podcast to grow. And in the
Wow.
midst of that, in the midst of having my podcast back then, one of the cool things that I don't know if it I don't think it was like I don't think it was like any miracle or anything like that. But I started interviewing celebrities, which, I
Really?
mean, unless you have the funds or the means to be in LA or to be in Atlanta,
Yeah. Hard.
how do you get to do this?
Right.
I was like, if I was famous, what would I want? Like, why would I want to go on somebody's podcast?
Mm.
And so I got connected to this producer in Atlanta. His name is Zaytoven. He created Usher's album Papers,
Wow.
that song. Okay. And so Zaytoven started a internet radio,
Yeah.
and his manager was like, hey, you wanna be on here? I'm like, yeah. So I started hosting my podcast on there, and when I would email somebody to be on my show, I say I've interviewed, which I interviewed super producer Zaytoven. I'm a
Wow.
blogger for his radio show
That's amazing.
online. And so when I started saying that and showing that I'm connected to them, then all things just came. Like I
Started opening
interviewed
up.
yeah, I interviewed
Yeah.
Montel Jordan.
What?
I interviewed
Wow.
Robert Richard from the TV show One on One. Like
Yeah.
just Jeremy Suarez, like all these people that I used to watch on TV as a kid. Now I'm like
That's
interviewing
amazing.
them. So I mean, like just being able to do that in the midst of doing all those jobs, in the
Yeah.
midst of not having a lot of money, in the
Right.
midst of not even having the former education to be like, well, how am I supposed to set up this interview? I was smart enough to create all of that on my own. And I attribute that to God, that God allowed me to be smart enough to create those opportunities for myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Look, I'm so glad we got another session coming up because there's a lot more to talk about. Real quick before we close out this first one, if you could go back and speak to your younger self, what would you tell her?
Oh man, to keep going. No
Yes.
matter what it looks like. A
Yes.
lot of times when I tell you, and I'm sure we'll talk about this another during the next
Mm-hmm.
session, but I wanted to give up. I never wanted to be in radio. And I can
Yeah.
talk about why in the next session, but I had a
Sure.
bad experience at an internship during that
Wow.
time. And
That
so I'm
almost
telling you,
derailed you.
23 to 27, I was
Yeah, it's
like,
tough.
I was going in, learning different stuff. And that internship, I was like, you know what? I'm not doing radio ever again. I don't want to be a part of broadcasting. Screw this. I'm gonna figure it out. But I'm so happy that I kept going. And one of
Good.
my mentors, his name is Tim Darling, and he's out of Chicago. And he's a DJ.
Okay.
He called me. He was like, Sharisse, like you got to keep your show going. He was like, this is something good here. You got to keep going. And I was like, okay. So I started doing radio at my school at that time.
Wow.
And then I started getting paid at my school for doing radio. And so I had my show there. I did my show for the Atlanta show, the Atlanta radio show, and I still kept my podcast on the hosting site that I had, and I kept going. And so I'm so happy that I was continuing despite the little bad incident that I ended up going through.
Proud of you.
Thank you.
How can people look you up and or tune into your words of wisdom
Connect
that you've
like
heard to?
minds. Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram at connect_like_minds. That's CONNECT_LIKE_MINDS. Or you can find me on all major platforms as far as Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It's all
Perfect.
Connect Like Minds. Just make sure you put
Nice.
spaces in between Connect, Like, and Minds. And also you can find me on YouTube and still
Boom.
Connect Like Minds on there.
Perfect. Well, you heard it here, guys. Taking yourself to that upper echelon is not the easiest thing, but you can't do it if you quit. You got to keep going. Like she told her younger self, don't give up. And I'm excited. Tune in here. We're gonna start our second one here very soon, and you'll be able to hear the next part. Where we're gonna talk about leadership and impact and go a little deeper. We'll talk
Oh,
to you
yeah.
guys soon. Keep going up. Thanks for tuning in to Eye Level to High Level. If you're ready to rise above the average, subscribe, share, and follow us for more ways to take your grind to greatness. Until next time, keep pushing higher.